Well, that was a boring weekend of hockey and uneventful. Well,
Yeah.
we'll get to the hockey because there's plenty to talk about. Eck is under the weather right now, so he'll be back tomorrow. But I want to talk a little bit about baseball and opening day. And opening day was yesterday, which is weird. I know that the tradition in the last couple years has been. I know they had a game in Japan one year. They've had Sunday night games. I'm an old fogey, Dan. I liked it when it was opening day in Cincinnati on a weekday afternoon, and then that was the tradition. And now they've gone away with that. Now there were a couple games yesterday: Tampa and Toronto.
Yep.
City and the Mets, the Cardinals and the Pirates. So there were 3 games. And I think the rest are opening either today or tomorrow.
So the Yankee game has been snowed out.
The Yankee game has been snowed out.
Slash rained out. It's not really snowing. It's raining.
Yeah, so I mean that's not surprising.
I'm glad they called that early, though. You know, the worst thing is
that was smart.
Yeah, they called that early, so you don't have to waste because it's not easy getting down there. And if you got
but it does suck for people that can't get off from work tomorrow too, though. That's
right.
the debate.
Yeah, traditionally, I like the weekday opening day. But if you're gonna do a Sunday, make it all day Sunday. I was okay with 3 games throughout the course of the day. I think they should be national games, though. If you're gonna do it big.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it big, but I don't like doing it. And the problem is that, like, Cincinnati, who has a parade, it's like the whole city shuts down because of baseball. It's now the 4th most important game on the schedule, based on this week. And that kind of stinks. The other thing is, how are they not even the first game today? Right. There were games going on before Cincy today. Like, it's just a mess.
Well, I mean, and I like the idea of having a rematch of the World Series if it's possible.
I did like that. Yeah, if your Sunday night game is going to do that, and you're doing a rematch of the World Series, I think that's kind of cool. Or if we did a rematch, that's good.
Yeah, but that great burgeoning rivalry of Toronto versus Tampa Bay. I mean, at least Pittsburgh and St. Louis are in the same division. I know Toronto and Tampa are, but get traditional matchups. Get Boston, New York, or get Chicago and St. Louis. Have something marquee if you're going to open the season that way, but not sort of by the way games.
And here's the other thing. I don't care. It's funny. Met fans are mad because the Mets are watching the whole ceremony. I don't care about that. I think that's motivating for a team. I think the problem is how long it took. That game didn't even come off on time at 8:30.
I know. A quick pitch was on at 11:30.
I know. Why couldn't all this stuff happen at
I got home at 2.
Why couldn't all this stuff happen at 6 o'clock? Have it happen at 6 o'clock.
And at the latest late night, I agree 1,000%. Every game should start at 5 o'clock Hawaiian.
No, but you know what? I mean, here's the thing. If you really, Major League Baseball is basically telling me that they don't care if kids watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't. They stopped. They stopped telling us.
They don't care, and that you know what? That's a double-edged sword because I get that there's more grown-ups in the world, but when people my age stop watching baseball, how many people of the younger generation are going to watch it when they're not growing up with it?
Yeah, they're not football. They can't just do whatever they want. No. They need to think of their demographic, and they by far have the oldest demographic. Like the NBA caters to kids really well. Now they start their games too late too, their playoff games, but they do market themselves to kids. Where the Major League Baseball does a terrible job of that.
And this is the thing. I'm a night owl, so I'll stay up till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch playoff hockey or watch baseball. I'm that.
Or quick pitch 1 a.m. with Heidi Watney.
Or quick pitch 1 a.m. on the MLB.
Right. That's right. Yours truly.
But most people won't. And when you start World Series games at 8:30 at night and they end at 12:30, you're going to lose people. I know that they start games late because they want to get the West Coast viewers, after rush hour, 5, 6 o'clock, so they're home and they can watch the game. But really, I mean, the majority, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I would assume it's the same way that the majority of the viewers of hockey games, of football games, of baseball games are on the Eastern Seaboard or Eastern Standard Time. So you gotta start starting these games at least at a middle ground, maybe 7:30. So you're not up till 1 a.m. watching a game. I think it's ridiculous.
First pitch 7:30. First pitch 7:10.
It's rough when people work on Monday and it's a Sunday night game anyhow. And you know what? And really, somebody should have put their foot down with the Royals. Like, hey, it's okay to do everything they did, but they took so long with the players out there. That's just ridiculous. Like, if you're going to have all of that go on, then schedule some of that much earlier. Like tomorrow they're doing the rings. It all should have been done same day. Nobody should have to sit through that twice. That's
well,
dumb.
maybe you can make the argument that they need their own day, and at 8:30 at night is not the time to do it. That they should be doing it at 1 in the afternoon in prime.
Here's the weird thing. Tomorrow it's 4 o'clock.
Right. So last night's game, if you want to make an argument, probably could have been like Mets Cubs and let the Royals celebration, let everyone see it.
What they should do if they're intent on doing it on opening day, then you know what? Start the ceremony at 7:30 when the game is not on TV. Start the game on time at 8:30, and then like in between the first, top and bottom of the first, they can show highlights of the handing out of the rings or whatever they're doing. The entire that's for Kansas City. That's not for the entire world to see, and it shouldn't make the game start at 9 o'clock. Now,
that's one like the Premier League always does that. The game, like for example, if it's a 10 o'clock window, that game starts at 9:55 every time. If there's a ceremony, it starts at 9:30. The first kickoff is always the same time every time, regardless of what happens before it.
I will tell you the one funny thing though. They had a pregame interview with I guess Hosmer, right? Is that how you?
Hosmer.
Yeah, Hosmer.
Yeah. And he was saying he grew up a Marlins fan, but he couldn't stick with the Marlins because like they would win a championship and sell their team. He actually said that in an interview, and I loved it. I love the fact that he actually said that. That was great.
97, they have Bobby Bonilla and all those. Didn't they have Bobby Bonilla? Gary Sheffield,
Al Leiter.
Al Leiter, and then they are all gone.
Was Pudge on? No, Pudge came later, right?
Pudge came later, I think.
He was on the 03 team, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Just quick predictions. We're not holding anybody to this, but just your general feeling. I said to Russ before the show. I think Kansas City, they didn't have as much of a drop off as teams that win the World Series usually do. I think they're going to win the Central again. I think they're going to be in the playoffs again. They're going to be very competitive. I will raise the ire of some of my readers and some of my compatriots in the Toronto media and say I don't see it with the Blue Jays. I think they've taken a step back. Their lineup is still very good, but they lose David Price. They basically replaced him with Jay Happ. They expect Marcus Stroman, who's a fine young pitcher, to step up and be a number one starter. And I don't know if there's enough there for him to be a 200 inning plus starting number one shutdown starting pitcher. And if they're 500 and they're struggling in July, their manager may get fired, and they may trade Bautista and/or Encarnacion, and I think their lineup got worse. So I'm not as bullish on the Blue Jays as a lot of people are.
That's fair. I mean, people are going to kill me.
Though.
Right. People are going to kill me, and I do think the Mets will go a certain distance and will go pretty far. I'm picking Dodgers Royals. That's the way I see it. You know what? I don't like what everybody sort of with the Cubs is just like, well, it's 109 years. This will be their year, and I get that they were really good last year. But again, I had people telling me going into the playoffs, oh, well, the Mets are going to lose. They can't hit Jake Arrieta, but they did. And so, I think the Cubs are a little more mortal than what people make out. I think they have a lot of stuff there. They have good pitching. I don't know if they have everything yet.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to give you any World Series, but I think the best two teams in the American League are the Rangers and the Royals, and I think the best two teams in the National League are the Mets and the Giants.
That's fair.
I think the Giants. I mean,
it's an even number year.
The Mets, their pitching is phenomenal. I don't think their offense improved as much as a lot of Mets fans would have liked, or their defense. I mean, basically they're bringing back the same team with the exception of Walker at second base.
Well, that's a big upgrade to Murphy, but otherwise, yeah.
Right. The Dodgers have all the talent in the world, but it just seems that they sometimes can't put it together. They'll sneak.
I think that staff is really thin, and I think that lineup's really thin.
Yeah, I mean, if a kid like Seager has a really great year as a rookie, they may be able to
They do have kids that can prop them up. That's what I'm expecting.
They do, but that staff is my big concern.
And in the American League, I think the AL East is going to be between Boston and New York. Maybe Toronto if everything goes right. And New York, they have those old fogies. But actually, the funny thing is, they got younger in certain places. Their middle infield is the best it's been since Cano and Jeter, with Gregorius and with Castro. If they get a better year out of Headley, if Teixeira can stay healthy, which is a big if, I think they can stick with the Red Sox, and the Red Sox don't have the deepest of rotations. I mean,
I'm not sure what to make of the Red Sox. On paper,
no,
I think
for
they're
the
going to be
Astros. I mean, the Astros have a lot of
No,
good young
I'm very bullish on the Astros. I'm big time bullish on the
You
Astros.
got to at least mention the Astros.
Well, I haven't gone to I didn't go to the West.
I know. I'm just saying they're worthy of mentioning if you're going to bring up a lot of teams.
We are a hockey podcast.
Yeah. Let's do hockey.
Okay, let's talk about hockey. Okay, all right. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, April 4th, 2016.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Ogello, and this is the Hockeybuzzcast here on Hockeybuzz.com. Well, as I said earlier, it was a boring, uneventful weekend in the NHL. We've got most teams with as much as 5 games left, some with as little as 2, Edmonton Oilers. But we'll start with the injuries and some key injuries and some devastating injuries. And first on top of all of them is Steven Stamkos. I mean, we've talked about Stamkos about what's going to happen after the year, but we may have seen the last of Steven Stamkos in a Tampa Bay uniform because he was diagnosed with a blood clot, apparently in his right collarbone area. Had vascular surgery today. The prognosis is, he'll be completely healthy, but the recovery time would be 1 to 3 months because he's going to be on blood thinners. I mean, they say he'll feel better right away, but he cannot play if he's taking blood thinners because if he gets a skate cut, he could die.
Right.
I mean, basically. So on top of the injury to Anton Stralman, Russ, this really, I mean, Tampa Bay was my dark horse in the East. Now, I think they're a first-round casualty unless Ben Bishop is Superman in the first round.
Yeah, it hurts them. And it hurts them because they don't have a tremendous amount of offensive talent on that team. You know, they've got a lot of guys like the Marchessaults and the Browns, and they rely a lot on the Killorns. And these are guys like 8, 10, 12 goals that – and again, Tyler Johnson, he's not had a mammoth season. He's not followed up last year very well. And so if this were last year, you wouldn't have been as worried, right? Because a lot more things were clicking. There's a lot less clicking. I think Jonathan Drouin will get his shot.
There you go. There's the savior.
Well, but I mean, I don't look at him as the savior, but I always told you guys, I could never trade Drouin if I didn't know what was going on with Stamkos.
Right.
Because to me, it's like, why would you be without both? And now you're out without one. You have the other there. You have to look at the opportunity of putting him in. And then, again, now going into the offseason, I'm not in a rush to trade Jonathan Drouin. Because if Stamkos isn't going to be there, who am I getting to replace Steve Stamkos? I may have to use Jonathan Drouin in a second-line option. And so, again, he's under contract. Everybody goes, well, he might not be happy. He's demanded a trade. I don't care if I'm the coach or the owner. If I need him, I need him.
You have to think if he's playing, that would calm him down a little bit too. And if he's playing well, all might be forgotten. Who knows? You know,
and he's playing well. Nobody's reporting that he's playing well until yesterday, until Stamkos went down, and nobody had reported. Remember, I brought up very early on that, hey, he's got like 3 points in 2 games, but nobody wants to report it because it's good news. Well, he's even doing way better than that now, and nobody has reported it because it's good news.
Right. Well, it's funny because as soon as the injury happened, I was up in Toronto. It happened. It was announced after the Leafs Wings game. I'm in the media room, and I was sitting next to a veteran reporter, and I immediately looked at Drouin's numbers because I remember he had scored against the Toronto Marlies the previous night. He has 10 goals in 16 games.
Yep, no one's saying a damn thing about it.
And I repeated that, and he's like, Drouin has that many? I'm like, yeah, he has that many. But now the thing is, it came out on Sunday that he's out. He's out with an injury. It's not a serious injury. It's a day-to-day lower body thing. But right now, and Tampa's in the playoffs. I mean, I think they need like 1 victory to clinch a playoff spot.
They do.
But
hope it's not tonight.
Actually, not even a victory, a point.
Okay, we'll give him a point tonight. I'm fine with that.
Just a point in tonight's game, actually.
But Russ, this is the thing with Cooper, with Stamkos out. If you're calling up Drouin, you have to put him in the top 6. If you call him up and you put him on the 4th line,
but he won't. He'll put him on the 3rd line. He will.
Then that's his fault. Then he's part of the problem.
It's
I know. I'm just telling you what he's going to do. He's not going to put him. He is not going to put him in a top 6 role.
What do you have to lose?
Well, again, today's coach, the mentality for some of these guys like Vigneault, like him, like Capuano,
Yeah.
when they have a young talent, a guy that looks like he should play where he's supposed to play, they don't want to upset the apple cart. They have guys that they believe they can count on. So then they put him in that other role. Like even Detroit has put Mantha and Athanasu on a fourth line. Yeah. Well, that'll help the fourth line. Yeah, for 8 minutes. These kids are not used to playing 8 minutes. They're used to playing 18 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, Mantha was playing 8 minutes and played around, I think, less than 10 minutes and played second power play. And
yeah, I mean, it's almost like not using them.
Yeah,
like, what's the point? It's like, what's the point of having, like, you know, you have an Islanders struggling power play, and not only do you have Ryan Pulak's 105-mile-an-hour slap shot sitting in the press box, you have Johnny Boychuk's 100-mile-an-hour slap shot sitting on the bench. It blows my mind.
Well, and I was going to move to the Islanders because they lost Hamonic to and Dan, I've watched the replay about 10 times. I still don't see how he got hurt. It was so awkward.
I don't think that some people were calling it. And Tavares said it was a gray play, or I don't think there was any look. Scott Hartnell's no saint. I don't think there was any intent there at all.
I didn't see knee to knee, and apparently it's a knee injury. But
it was a knee to knee. Yeah, they collided. It was funny because I listened to somebody on XM last night, Jonathan Davis. I'd say that the Hamonic's injury was because of the ice at Barclays. I'm like, really? It had nothing to do with Scott Hartnell's knee going through his shin guard?
Yeah, that was the reason. Although Dan Craig is at the Barclays Center fixing the ice, but that didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, both teams have to play on that ice, and the Penguins had no problem on Saturday.
But then it was announced this morning that on top of Halak being out, JF Berube is out.
Shell shock for Berube.
So now they have to call up the lethal weapon, Christopher Gibson.
He's played well because he's a good minor league goalie. He's played well for Bridgeport.
Well, you just stressed it, a good minor league goaltender. So again, all the weight is on Thomas Greiss.
Yes, it is.
And this is, I mean, on top of Hamonic being a 20 to 25 minute a night defenseman, now you got more pressure on Boychuk and Leddy. And now you got more pressure on Greiss, and the Islanders are only 2 points ahead of Philadelphia in the standings.
Right.
This is dangerous
territory. They're holding on by their thumbnails. They are.
So are the Rangers.
Yeah, but the Rangers are in a little better spot. They're in a better spot.
But they're 2 points ahead of the Islanders.
Yeah, well, that's a big deal now.
With a game in hand.
Yeah, that's a big deal this time of year. Unfortunately,
it is. No, I know, but it's not like everything's comfy and cozy across the river.
Look, they're going to go into Columbus. It's not like Torts is going to say, "Yeah, let's let the Rangers win so they can, clinch already."
No, just back to the Islanders for a second. It's the season will be defined by their top 9 forwards, and their top 9 forwards look disinterested. They made it so easy on Matt Murray. I think he faced 3 good quality scoring chances. I don't even think he broke a sweat. No one's driving the net. They basically are having like a tea party on the half boards. It's like they look like a soccer team at times. They just don't they want to pass the puck into the net, and it's just maddening. And finally, after being absurd after the game on Saturday, I don't want to get into it, but today Capuano in practice called out Bailey, Strome, and Nelson and said they need to get their bleep together. So,
and that's fine. That's a step in the right direction. The other problem is they are a team that is sort of afraid to make a mistake at times, and that does hurt them.
And they never have the puck because they're not, that forecheck isn't working, because they just are always chasing the puck. They never have the puck. And no one's going to net. It's one shot and done, one shot and done, one shot and done. And when they do go to the net, they score. Or they create a penalty, or something good happens.
Well, good segue because you were talking about Pittsburgh. Marc-Andre Fleury suffers his second concussion of the season. They say out indefinitely. I've heard 1 to 2 weeks, but with concussions, you never know. And in this instance, Pittsburgh is fortunate that they have Murray, who is a capable young goaltender.
Absolutely,
will carry the bulk. The question is whether now you have.
He is not a backup goalie, by the way. I heard that over the weekend too. It's like, they're back. He is not a backup goalie. All right,
the starter. Come on. Waiting.
If he was available via trade, there would be a line outside the door.
And honestly, if they're of the mind of trading him, which I don't think they are now, but if they're of the mind of trading him, his value will skyrocket based on what he does in the playoffs and what he does late in the season. But now they're without
Tristan Jarry. Now Tristan Jarry will be the one that they end up trading.
Now also another good-looking prospect too.
He is really good. He really is.
Really.
They're without Malkin. They're without Fleury, and they keep winning.
And no Mata either.
And no Mata either, and they clinched the playoff spot.
And it doesn't matter.
Jeez.
No, it's funny.
I'll just leave that one hanging there, Dan.
It's funny because the Penguins look amazing right now. They look like a video game. They seriously look like a PlayStation, like a PlayStation game, and you're playing the computer on beginner. That's how good they look right now. And what Nick Bonino has done for Kessel, and because he doesn't want the puck, and it's like Kessel carries the puck, and Malcolm carries the puck, and Crosby carries the puck, and there's only one puck. So the fact that Kessel is with line mates who don't want the puck, you have a phenomenal line right now.
Which is why Tyler Bozak was the perfect center for him, because Tyler Bozak played without the puck, and Kessel was allowed to play the puck.
With that being said, though, in a long series, I still think I've seen it in spurts. I watched both games this weekend. Actually, I've been watching a lot of Penguins games lately. I think you can still exploit their defense with a good forecheck. I still think you can exploit that defense. However, they always have the puck right now. So if they're always going to have the puck, it doesn't really matter. But I do see some signs where it's like, ooh, okay, those little chips where you can put size on some of their defensemen. I think you can wear them down over a long series. But right now, they are playing the best hockey I've seen them play in years. And
I just want to bring up another name too. We're always going to talk about Crosby. We're always going to talk about Kessel. It's nice to talk about Murray, and I've heard that same kind of conflicting stuff about Murray because people just don't know him and they're not doing the research. But another name that you have to throw into Norris consideration is Chris Letang. He is having an unbelievable season.
Absolutely.
This is a guy that 2 years ago had that blood clot. Last year was knocked out on the ice, taken off on a stretcher, had another head injury last year. I didn't know what he was going to be like this season. Nobody did. He's got 16 goals and 64 points. He's a plus player. Nobody talks about him in the Norris because everybody's arguing over Carlson and Doughty, and yet this guy is a huge reason that they're doing what they're doing. If Chris Letang's not in the lineup, no matter all the moves that are made, they're not even half the team they are.
Agreed.
Yeah, and you have to give Jim Rutherford credit because he went out. Now, I haven't seen enough of Justin Schultz since he came there to see whether he's
been fine. And considering how bad he was in Edmonton, fine is good. Right. He's been a stable third-pairing defenseman, and I think if you're the Penguins, you're ecstatic over that.
Right. I mean, if you haven't heard his name, that sort of indicates that he's playing better, because if he was making the ridiculous giveaways that he did in Edmonton, you'd hear about it.
And it just kind of shows what happens when players are leaving Edmonton now. They get into a different system. And
well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But the addition of Daly and the addition of Hagelin added a lot of speed. They had some call-ups from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton that have played well, like Rust and Sheary and a couple other players. So I mean, they're getting internal improvements, they're getting external improvements, and the organization. I mean, they were in trouble midway through the season, even with Malkin and Crosby and Kessel in the lineup. But now, they're the hottest team in the league. It's just a question of whether the matchup in the first round of the playoffs. I still think if they play the Rangers have had their number. You got Henrik Lundqvist, who is phenomenal in the playoffs, and the Rangers play that defensive style that doesn't exactly match with what the Penguins do.
Yeah, but that defensive style isn't what it used to be.
You're talking a couple of years ago when I was at that Game 7 and the Rangers won. All those defensemen are a couple of years older, a lot more mileage on them. Dan Girardi's not even close to the same defenseman.
He's 74 years old in a 33-year-old's body.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't even go there. And that's the thing. Nobody could be comfortable in matching up the past, whether it's Rangers, Capitals, Rangers, Penguins. Wipe the slate clean on that.
You know what you want to do, seriously, which if the Islanders can stay where they are, being the number one wild card and bumping over to the Atlantic and taking your chances with the Panthers and then any other team there, I think you do. I think you take your chances with the Atlantic. And it's no disrespect to those teams, but
at this point, that's probably the best option.
Right, you avoid the Rangers, the Capitals, and the Penguins until the conference finals and the Flyers, and whoever comes out of that is going to be they'll be fine, but they're going to be exhausted and they're going to be beat. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath for 2 rounds.
Well, look at the top 2 teams in the Atlantic right now. I mean, Tampa lost Stamkos and they lost Strowman. That's probably their second best defenseman and their best forward. Florida, they lost Trocheck last week, and he's probably out for the season. That's a big loss. I mean, basically now they're going to have a guy like Bukestad or if Dave Bolin can come back, step up into the number 2 center role.
Bukestad's been playing a lot better too. He looks like he's healthy finally for the first time in about a year and a half.
Yeah, he's had migraine problems. So I mean that's a big thing. I mean he's a big-bodied center, and if you have
Barkov looks like a star in the making. I mean that kid. Every time I see him, he just keeps getting better and better and better.
I mean, I think Florida's going to be a tough out in the playoffs because you got Luongo, who's I think is still at a very. I mean, I don't when it gets to the finals, okay, fine. The specter of him in Vancouver from a few years ago, but in Florida, I think he's been a difference maker. He's been a leader, solid. I think he carries them further, and Jágr. I mean, Jágr is he's not fast anymore, but he's just so slick and so
he knows how to use the size. He knows how to protect the puck better than we've seen in decades. Right. And because of that, it doesn't matter what his foot speed is because you can't get the puck away from him.
Right. It doesn't matter.
Then you double down.
The other day, it took a long time, and he still scored.
Oh, and then also he had a 2-on-1 the other day, and they shifted over to him, and even though it looked like in slow motion, Barkov caught up, and he sent the prettiest backhand pass right to Barkov.
He did. Now, okay, I've got some breaking news. I do. So out of Russia, we're getting conflicting reports, as you always do out of Russia.
Shocker.
The Zaitsev thing isn't guaranteed. Like, CKSA has already wished him good luck. So he's a Leaf. It's just a matter of when he signs, right? So that's a definite. Now, the Radulov situation, the information I got is it says Fedorov said. I don't know Fedorov. Is it Fedor? Is it Sergei? I don't know.
It's Sergei.
It's probably Sergei, and he said he's not aware that he's going to Toronto. He said it's really just rumors because they're still negotiating Radulov and CKSA with a contract, and a lot of people are jumping the gun on that, saying that he's definitely coming to the NHL, but it's not definite yet.
Well, the funny thing is that when that report came out last week, it was immediately shot down from a couple Russian reporters who said this is just rumor mongering between CSKA and St. Petersburg. The two big teams. They were involved in a playoff series together, and they wanted just to sort of start some stuff to get in the minds of some of the players. That maybe he comes over to the NHL, but I mean I wouldn't put it past Toronto in terms of going out there and getting a player in terms of somebody you could get for free, and you don't have to give up any draft picks or whatever. It's
no assets.
Right, but the thing is, I mean, if you think Nazem Kadri is an attitude problem with Radulov, my goodness, I mean, he's been uncontrollable in the KHL, and we know the problems that he had in Nashville a few years back. I'll just mention Kadri got suspended 4 games by the NHL today, so his season is over with. Which I know that the members of Tank Nation out there were giving a standing ovation for that suspension. But I mean, this is symptomatic. Nazem Kadri has been fined and suspended, and it's cost him almost $400,000 this year between the fines for diving and embellishment, the fine for the throat slash gesture, and now he loses 4 games worth of salary and $200,000 in repeat offender fines for a cross check to the head of Luke Glendening. So I mean,
here's the funny thing though. It doesn't seem to be bothering management all that much. It really doesn't.
Well, I mean, it's funny because the statement that Mike Babcock said on the weekend regarding Kadri, if you read carefully, it's he's saying, I don't want him to change. I want him to go out there and be mean and be good defensively and this and that and all this laundry list. But obviously, I don't think the organization wants him to be uncontrollable. And he's a 25-year-old guy who's in his 6th year in the NHL, and he's making stupid mistakes on the ice. He's showing bad judgment. He's making stupid gestures.
No, but he's already talked himself into him being on the team next year, where we don't know if that's true or not. But the point is,
an analytical darling.
But the point is, he's not against it, Babcock, and neither is management. They're not against it.
He's not against it, but he's not in control of it.
No.
I think he's a stopgap right now. He's a stopgap until you're coming out of your rebuild and you're ready to be serious about your top 6 forwards.
Sure, and that's fair, but it's just kind of odd. I find it kind of odd that the organization really hasn't taken a stand on his conduct. They really haven't.
Well, the thing is, the case for Kadri, because the talk was he wants the long-term deal. He wants to make over $5 million. Well, he shot himself in the foot with what he's done over the last couple weeks. I mean, I think the case for him to be able to do that is not good. Now,
no, but like with Sean Avery, the Rangers would defend him up to a point, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, look, And it doesn't seem like the Leafs are at that point yet. It really doesn't.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, the Leafs have one of three options. They can offer him arbitration, give him a 1-year deal. He's 2 years away from being a UFA. They can sign him to a long-term deal, buy off years of free agency, which will cost them. I mean, he'll probably want, like I said, over $5 million, which I think would be ridiculous. Or they can trade him. And I think that one of the things, and I said in my article yesterday, that Lou Lamoriello is probably not going to want a guy who is 25 years old, who has discipline problems off the ice last year, on the ice this year, spend big money, and then have him be an influence on all these young kids that they're bringing into the organization. If you bring in, say, a Stamkos as a leader, then that might be one thing. But if there is a void of leadership and Nazem Kadri is one of your leaders, that's got danger signs.
But you also got Babcock behind the bench, and I don't think he'd let them I don't think he'd let him poison the locker room. I don't think that for a second.
But I think Dan's right. I think he's getting signed to a bridge deal, and whether they trade him or not, they'll probably sign him first and set the price at him, and then maybe if they get offers. But again, like, it's just an odd thing that with this change in the team, that they're really letting Kadri do whatever Kadri wants to. Like, he was a good citizen for a lot of the year, and now in the last month and a half, it has slipped. And again, he's not on the team right now, so I guess it's easy to say this, but if he didn't get suspended now, he'd be playing next game. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure. I mean,
maybe they know they're going to trade him and they don't care right now.
Exactly. It might be the case.
I think that's what some people are hoping, but we don't know that for sure, right? I mean, we don't know.
No, we don't. But there is a sizable portion of the Leaf fan base who love him, who think he is a lot better than he actually is, and there are some who look at him realistically and see the flaws in his game. And we'll see. I mean, if they have an influx of youngsters next year, which they're going to, if they add a Stamkos in free agency, which is possible, it's not a definite. I don't know if there's room for Nazem Kadri, but we'll see. I mean, that's something that they will decide over the summer. But let me get back to the playoff race here, because this is where it stands right now. So the Islanders have 93 points. They have 5 games remaining. They play Tampa, at Washington, at the Rangers, at home against Buffalo and Philadelphia. That game.
5 games in 6 days.
5 games in 6 days. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, great schedule there. Philadelphia has 4 games remaining. They're at 91 points. At Detroit, that's probably the biggest game of the year, probably right now. Then the next
big thing about that too. Yesterday, Shane Gostisbehere basically said post game on Saturday that Steve Mason's probably taking more IVs than anybody on the team, and you do kind of wonder in yesterday's game, why did they leave him in for the entire game? Yeah. It's just, I kind of wondered, wouldn't that be the chance to give him a rest? Because it was clear they weren't going to win that game.
Or they are off until Wednesday.
Yeah, I know, but again, at some point, days off are days off, but when you're playing, you're playing, and he's going to have to still play back-to-back, and he's probably going to finish out the season. And then if they have to use somebody, maybe Stolarz will get a period or two, or maybe Emery will. But the point is, he's played a lot already, and I would have thought that would have been the game to sort of give him the mental blow even before these days off. I was a little surprised, that's all.
Right. And, more than likely Mason's going to go back-to-back, because it's back-to-back at Detroit and then against the Toronto Marlies/Leafs on Thursday, and then
one more back-to-back at the end.
And then Pittsburgh and at the Rangers. Or at the Islanders. At the Islanders, I'm sorry. Detroit has 3 games.
Which, by the way, Dan knows this. That could be the play-in game. That may be the whole season for one of those teams.
It might be. I mean, the Islanders need 3 points to get into the playoffs.
Detroit has 91 points.
They need a combination of 3 points.
I know. You know what's funny? We could spell it out what everybody needs, and probably nobody thought that the Rangers would be in this position, that the Islanders would be in this position, that maybe I thought and Mike thought that the Bruins would be in this position, but many probably thought they wouldn't be after what happened at the deadline. Yet all these teams are in this position, so it's great.
But I mean, if you keep that into perspective, that's like an overtime loss tonight and a loss from whoever's in the 9 seed.
Sure. That's to me right now. Detroit has the toughest of the 4 teams' schedules. They only have 3 games left, but it's Philadelphia, at Boston, at the Rangers.
Tampa, Washington, Rangers is pretty brutal, and then Buffalo and Philadelphia.
Yeah. The only thing is, though, with the Detroit, is they had the home game against the Flyers, and
Right.
that's going to count for something because that crowd does get crazy. Now that Pavel, look, everybody has something to play for. Ed Snyder's not in great health, so their Flyers are playing for him. Detroit has now found out that Pavel Datsyuk might not be on the team next year, so now clearly they're going to be trying to do something for him. So everybody got something to sort of motivate them, and that home game for them is huge. It really is, because if they were to win that game, that may put them in the driver's seat again, which we probably thought they could never get back in it, but they could.
Yeah.
And Boston has 3 games remaining, all 3 at home. Now, the funny thing is, they're a better road team than a home team.
Yeah, that's what's funny about that.
But in this instance, you know what? You're home and you're playing Carolina, Detroit, and Ottawa.
Oof.
I
Should
mean,
be able to win 2 of those.
Yeah, they have to win 2 of those, but that's the weakest of the 4 schedules. So
Yeah.
I stick with Boston over Detroit. I think Detroit.
Yesterday on Twitter, I posted a meme of the Black Knight from Monty Python when it was 6-0, right? It was 6-0 in that game, and Bruins fans were like, "Well, it's not over," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's not over," and that's what made me post that meme. But the idea is, like, they are literally like the Black Knight. Like, they're running out of limbs, and it might get down to the point where he's going to be like, "I'll bite you. Come over here and I'll bite you," because like they're just everything's falling off that wagon. I mean, I don't know.
It's so weird how they play, like how they're so up and down, and even in the course of a period,
I know
they're so it's just they're such a hard team to gauge because they can score goals, but there are times where they look like incompetent in their own end.
Yeah, and we knew that defense would be a problem, but like I saw them mount a pretty good comeback against Blackhawks. They definitely did roll over, and so maybe that's something they'll pull into the next game, but.
And they scored 6 goals against St. Louis and 1 in St. Louis. So I mean,
they're so hard to predict. They're impossible to predict.
Yeah, and I don't understand why the Bruins are having such trouble at home, but and sometimes those teams that are out of it and have no pressure whatsoever, they're the toughest ones to beat. But you saw Ottawa on the weekend play Philadelphia, Russ, and Ottawa is putting together a lineup that is, it's basically the Binghamton Senators. I mean,
yeah, nobody really wanted to talk about it in town. Yeah, but I mean, there was no Kyle Turris. There was no Mark Stone, no Dion Phaneuf. I mean, they were missing a lot of guys.
I mean, Toronto's doing the same thing. I was in Toronto for the game on Saturday, and Milan Mihalik had some, and I don't know the extent of the knee injury, but he had a knee injury, and immediately he was shut down for the season. It could be a scab on his knee, and I'm not saying it is, but it could be a scab on his knee, and they're going to shut him down.
You might as well. You're going to bottom out.
Right, and now Kadri.
And you get to evaluate some of your other players too.
Kadri's suspension has helped them, so now that probably gives William Nylander the last 4 games of the regular season to play. But now they're without arguably their number 1 center, so now Tyler Bozak is back to being their number 1 center.
I'll get to see them on Thursday. It'll be interesting to see that game because that's a game where you would think the Flyers would win that game 4-1, but their fans are going to probably be worried about that game because sometimes they'll play down to the competition. And so what could the Leafs do to sort of screw up the Flyers in that game? Just max effort from guys that are playing for jobs? Is that really what it could be?
Yeah, well, that's the one thing. Throughout all this, Babcock is getting max effort from these guys. These guys are hungry because some of them are playing for their careers. A guy like Colin Greening, who was down in the AHL for a year and a half, he's played better than I had ever expected him to play in the last couple weeks. He's playing for a job. He wants to be on the 4th line with the Leafs next year. He doesn't want to go back to the AHL. So all these guys are playing for something. Frankie Corrado and some of the other young defense. Connor Carrick was sent to the Marlies.
Right, he played well. He played well in his time up there.
And I think he made an impression. But actually, some of these players, and I said it when they sent 4 players down, they sent them down because they were playing too well.
You're right.
Connor Brown, Zach Hyman, Connor Carrick were all playing too well. And they brought up guys like Andrew Campbell and T.J. Brennan. They're rewarding them for their fine play with the Marlies, but they know that they're borderline NHLers. So I think they brought them up because they wanted to give them an opportunity, but also because they wouldn't. The motivation for them is not there to. They know what their role is in the organization. So let's move on to this. And this is symptomatic of this organization over the last few years. And Todd McClellan, the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, lost it, and justifiably so, after them losing to Calgary 5-0 on Saturday. I quote McClellan, "We've been together 200 days and talked a lot about competing and working hard and holding your hand, showing up, and we get that. That's the exact crap we are trying to eradicate from this group. You work hard and try to at least get some foundation, and when we are outshot, we are out-hit and outscored and out-face-offed, out-power played, out everything."
Here's my comeback for that. It is pretty bad. I kind of wonder for all those Canadian writers out there that want to vote for Connor McDavid as the Calder, should it matter that he's not helping his team win at all? I mean, at some point,
it shouldn't, because it never has in the past.
I think it should. I mean, look,
why are we starting that day so we're going to have a rookie MVP award?
No, but the idea is, look, every other rookie that you can name in this list is helping their team. I mean, Larkin's
Panthers missed the playoffs last year. That's why I won Rookie of the Year.
Panarin looks like he's the runaway winner now. He's clearly helping his team. Like, I'm just saying, I'm not saying McDavid's having a bad year, but I did find some stats and some things that say, hey, you know what? There are times when he's not contributing other than points where you could say that's not great. And so I don't think he's an untouchable to sort of say, well, Connor McDavid's not complicit, it's the rest of the team. That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree. I mean, like, look, Sidney Crosby had a fantastic rookie year, didn't win Rookie of the Year, but their team was terrible.
Right.
Well, and this is the thing.
I just don't think he should be nominated because he hasn't played enough games. In my opinion,
I agree. The grind is a big deal.
Well, and there's other candidates too. If it was one of those years where there were no no realistic candidates, sure. But there are 4 or 5 realistic candidates, and I think Panarin's the leader right now. He has to be.
He's the leader.
I don't care who he plays with. He's been phenomenal.
No, he has.
This is the thing, Dan. I mean, it's like Mark Stone last year, I think, won in part because Ottawa made the playoffs and they made that run. Sure. I think that's the case that Gostisbehere has to make in terms of winning Calder this year.
And there's a good case there.
Yeah, Gostisbehere, I mean, Philadelphia wouldn't even be close to the playoffs if it wasn't for the way Gostisbehere's played. Now, I talked to some people up in Toronto on the weekend, and they're saying, well, look at McDavid. He's got he's in the top 3 or top 4 in the NHL in points per game. And that's what they point to in terms of McDavid. So McDavid is going to get a lot of votes and probably could win this award.
That's ridiculous. That's the Canadian media being stupid.
If he wins, it's out of nationalistic pride, and I don't want to take it away because I think McDavid is a great player. I couldn't say better things about McDavid for the entire time that I've been talking about him for 2 or 3 years. I went to Erie to cover him. It's an 8-hour ride. But at the end of the day, he doesn't deserve to win the Calder as much as Panarin does. He just doesn't.
It's not the league's fault that the top 4 candidates are Russian and 3 Americans. Right. It's not the league's fault. I'm sorry. Right. McDavid's going to have a great career, and at the end of the day, if he ends up with 1,500 points, they're not going to keep him out of the Hall of Fame because he didn't win Rookie of the Year. Well, Crosby's still a first ballot Hall of Famer. He didn't win Rookie of the Year. It happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Edmonton's either going to finish 29th or 30th.
We
know.
They have 2 sure? Text Eck. No, you should text Eck and see because maybe there's still a bet I could still win.
They have 2 games left, a home and home with Vancouver. So the most they can get is 71 points.
Oh, there's a battle right there. That's
the sorrows of Western Canada.
Yes, there you go. For bragging rights. Who cares less? But I mean, more than likely they're gonna finish 30th, but it could be 29th. At least members of the Leafs Tank Nation hope that there's a possibility. But the question is, what does Peter Chiarelli do in the offseason? Because right now, I mean, I look at that team and I would keep of the high picks of the forwards. I would obviously keep McDavid. I would keep Taylor Hall. And I would keep Draisaitl. And anybody else, if you can get value for them, gonzo.
Yeah, I think McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nurse are the 3 that are untouchable.
Well, I'm not talking about the defense. I'm talking about the forwards. I'm talking about the occupied.
I think Taylor Hall might be available. I really do.
I don't think so.
If the deal is there to really improve the blue line. I really think so.
Yeah, you know what the problem is? Like, there's very few players like Taylor Hall in the league. It's hard to get that kind of guy.
Right, but he's part of that culture of losing that's done nothing there.
Yeah, I don't think it's all him, but I get what you're saying. I mean, I don't think he should be.
I wouldn't trade him either. But I don't think there's that many people that are off limits right now because it's so bad.
No, I'll tell you though, Sportsnet's John Shannon thinks like I do, and if he basically was broached the question today, if the number 1 pick went to Edmonton, who would you take? And he's like, you take Austin Matthews. Don't be stupid. And that was his comment, and I agree with that. Now the other comment Right. And the other comment he made is something else I brought up a few weeks ago, which I still agree with, is if you get Matthews, you will move Draisaitl to the wing. Like, that's what you do.
Yeah, but it's...
So it'll be Eberle or it'll be Yakupov.
Or both.
Yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to trade Nugent Hopkins. I wouldn't hesitate to trade Yakupov.
I don't think Nugent Hopkins has the value. Otherwise, I'd say yes, trade him.
I agree with Russ there. Just because his inability to stay healthy.
Yeah, his value's dropped.
Well, yes, it has. But the thing is, is his value going to increase playing him as a third-line center?
No, but what's his salary? His salary is not commensurate.
$6 million.
It's not commensurate with his play. That's the problem.
Right. So
I don't think anybody's taking him for that salary.
No.
I think there'll be people that take him, but they're not.
Well, you're not getting the return you want.
Right.
No.
The question is like, if you trade Yakupov, do you get more than a second-round pick?
Yes.
I think you do. I think you can get yourself, a defenseman. I think you can get yourself a higher draft pick if you want to go down that road. Which I wouldn't expect them to. I think they want bodies. I think they want players they can hold on to for years.
If you're Edmonton, you use one of your forwards to get Travis Hamonic, and you use one of your other forwards to get another defenseman.
Right.
Okay, put your Islanders GM hat on there, Dan. Which one of their forwards do you want, realistically, for Hamonic? Eberle?
That contract's not great.
He's $6 million.
Yeah, I am open to anyone right now. Really, after what I've been watching with the top 9 forwards, I am willing to give anyone a shot next to Tavares. I really am. So I think Eberle has the skill. A change of scenery might do him good. I'm a little concerned about his salary and he does have a tendency to get banged up. I am also intrigued by Yakupov though. I really am because I think he can create some space in the top 6 forwards. I think he's responsible defensively, and I think he would really fit in well with Brooklyn. I think he would feel like he's home.
Yeah, I think he
has so much talent.
He's the bargain in the salary part, and if you get him to replace Okposo, you're not going to replace Okposo's points,
right?
But you might be able to make up for production for Tavares getting more production. You might be able to make that argument.
Now, if Garth Snow is gunning for a guy like Taylor Hall, then he's probably going to have to add a really good second player in the deal, like a Strome or like a Del Cole or a Barzal.
Shoot, I think if the deal was Hamonic and Strome for Hall, the deal would have been done already.
Well, maybe Chiarelli wasn't open to that possibility, previously.
I'd even throw in a draft pick if I needed to.
Well, yeah, I think that I don't think that's the direction the Oilers want to go in. I
don't either.
They want to get players, and that Hamonic being locked up long term, and a guy like Strome being on his entry level deal, or some of the other players that we mentioned. I think those are really important factors because then the Oilers can hold on to these players for 6-7 years and not have to worry about them going free agency or becoming RFAs and asking for money. They're guaranteed at a lower price point, so.
I don't want to trade Ryan Strome. I would like to see him with a professional head coach. But if I need to trade him to get that impact player, I'd be willing to.
Now, the other interesting scenario that popped up yesterday was the sort of words between Patrick Waugh, or that Patrick Waugh mentioned about Matt Duchene.
I take Matt Duchene in a second. Shoot.
Yeah, my dog Perla perked her ears up. She wants to hear this story.
Matt Duchene scored his 30th goal last night, and Patrick Waugh in the post-game remarks called Duchene on the carpet for being over-celebratory for this goal. He says, the thing I have a bit of a hard time with is the reaction of Dutchy after he scored. It's a 4-0 goal. Big cheer. Are you kidding me? What is that? It's not it's not the reflect we want from our guys. Not at all. Well,
says the guy who would catch a puck on a routine glove save and put it right in front of your face.
Yeah, this is symptomatic, Russ. Remember, early was it November? There was a lot of talk about Duchene being traded, and it was, I think, pretty much it was the realization that there was not a great relationship between Waugh and him, and he's had a pretty good year, so that sort of put things to the side. But this comment, to me, brings it right to the forefront again, and it's a question of what direction Colorado goes in with Duchene going forward.
I don't think it's that big a deal. I think what it is sometimes there are things when you work with somebody that they do things to annoy you, right? And so this is something where he did this and he annoyed Patrick Waugh. I go back to go look at the video for Vinny Prospero celebrating his 25th or 30th goal and John Tortorella just killing him while it's going on the bench. And then John Tortorella welcomes in Vinny Prospero when he's, with the Rangers. So when I saw that happen, that changed my mind on things like this. And I think he was just temporarily aggravated. I don't think Duchesne did anything crazy either. He was happy that he got 30 goals. I think he looked at it as like, hey, we're coming back in this game. I'm finally scoring because I'm off the disabled list, and I got my 30th goal. I don't think he has to be sad and walk away and somber like, yeah, we're still 3 goals down and we're season slipping away. Like, he doesn't have to be verbose about it. Like, I think that's what Patrick Waugh wanted because that's how he feels in his head because the playoffs have slipped away. But it doesn't mean every player needs to feel that way. And I think that's why it's not that big a deal. And they can't afford to lose Matt Duchesne. They can't.
The injury train continues. St. Louis Blues just report that both David Backes and Jake Allen will miss the remainder of the regular season with lower body injuries.
They just rested him.
I don't know. Allen didn't. That Allen one looked like some kind of strain last night.
No, but you know what I mean. Like everybody's got a tweak right now. I've seen players limping around. They're still playing. Like this is a way where St. Louis is about to get 100. What do they have 100 or they're going to get 100?
They're close to it.
They're going to get 100 points. What?
They're close to it. I think
yeah. 7. I mean, so with everything that's going on, they know.
They have 103. The Blues have 103.
103, yeah, so they're over 100 already.
But they're 2 points out of first place.
Right, that's what it is. They're 2 out of first. That's where I was thinking 2 points. With everything that's going on with them, they're at the point where they're like, you know what? We got to have healthy bodies in the playoffs. We can't worry about the rest of this regular season, how it shakes out as much, because they know what they're up against. So they need healthy bodies rather than placement in the playoffs, and I don't blame them.
My only concern with Allen is he's been on the injured reserve list, 3 times this year?
Sure, but he wasn't going to be the starter in the playoffs anyhow.
Are we sure about that?
I'm sure about it. I don't know.
It's going to be Elliott. It's going to be Elliott. Yeah. I think, he's the better of the 2 goaltenders, at least right now, since he came back from the injury, but I don't think he's a good playoff goaltender, so I think they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
But they're going to go with the hot hand, and Elliott's the hot hand. I mean, I don't think Jake Allen had a chance of starting the playoffs at least. Now, could he get in there? Sure, he can get in there.
What are your thoughts on the recall by the Montreal Canadiens of one of the folk hero of the NHL All-Star, Mr. John Scott?
Why not? Right? Why not? Good for him. Good for him to make an NHL contract for a week. And look, the games don't mean anything. If Montreal wants to bottom out as much as they can and get some more ping pong balls in the old fish bowl, why not? Right? Look. I think John Scott deserves any shot he gets in the NHL. I think it's great for him. So I have no problem with it.
Russ? I think they want to sell jerseys.
Yeah, I think you're right. No, that's a great point, Russ. Because I was at that Rangers game in Montreal a few weeks ago, and there were about 5,000 Ranger fans there, and you never see that in Montreal.
No.
Now, the Capitals let it be known that Braden Holtby will play 2 of the last 4 games. I believe
if it's not Wednesday, that will be awesome.
I think one of them was Wednesday, actually.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So,
why do you think they're going to do? If they have a choice of doing a favor, and they're not going to do it to the Islanders, they're not.
I know. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The way the Islanders are playing, you can put a garbage can there, and it will stop 30 shots.
Jeez. Wow.
It doesn't matter. You can just seriously, you can put a garbage can there.
Guarantee the garbage can walks away with the win. You should carry that out.
You put that garbage can there, a poster will hit it 4 times and ring one off the post.
Yep, there you go. Barry Trotz confirms Braden Holtby will play Tuesday versus the Islanders and Thursday against the Penguins. Wow. So,
because he wants them to play those division games for a reason.
Well, I believe he's at 48 wins right now, so I think he's going for 50 wins.
Yeah, he is.
And that's the main motivation here. I think they want to give him a little rest. They're going to mix Grubauer in for a couple games, not overwork him, but they also want to give him the opportunity to get the 50 wins. And if he doesn't get it, at least they gave him enough games to actually get it. So I get that. But,
hey, I've got more breaking news. So Worcester has now got an ECHL team, and they're called the Worcester Railers.
Right.
And they got a nice logo. It's a picture of a train. But if you've ever been to Worcester, it is a depressing, awful-looking town. Like, I just hope that if I was on the rail, I would want it to
Armpit is the best way to describe it.
I would want the rail to continue through Worcester and go straight to Boston. Like, I don't know if I would stay on the rail.
What you're saying is it makes Buffalo look like Shangri-La?
Yes.
No, yes, it does, yeah.
Really does.
My friends from Boston always had this one line. What's west of Weston? Nothing.
All that said, it's an interesting name, but, I always think of, like...
It's up there with Roxbury. Roxbury's a little dicey, too.
I always think of what's going to happen when they lose, though, and I thought of, like, hey, they'll be derailed, or the fans were railing. Like, it's just, I always think of the negative first, like, what the negative, like, I think when you name a team, you should always think of the worst-case scenario, like, what are people going to say when you lose?
When they're going on the road, they're heading out on a rail. And there you go.
You got to think about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this was a baseball team, but there was there was a franchise in Macon, Georgia called the Macon Whoopies.
Yeah, that's right. That's a baseball team.
A baseball team? Okay, which is to me is the best name.
Right. Actually, there's no negative to that. You can't come up with a negative spin on that.
And there's a team, the Somerset Patriots. They're in Massachusetts in the Atlantic League, and their mascot's name is General Admission.
That's fantastic.
I think it's amazing. Really, seriously.
That's great.
On that note, we'll end the show. Thank you.
Draft lottery.
Oh, yeah.
Draft lottery. Come on.
I'll do it on the phone. Let me just give me a second. Cover for me as I pull up the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator. There we go.
Like a 75% chance.
We should sue some of these other shows because they're doing it on every show now.
Right.
Just remember, fans in Canada, you control the draft.
This is the Canadian draft lottery simulator.
It really is. That's what it should be.
You know what? Buffalo's close enough.
Here we go. And the winner of the NHL Draft Lottery is the Arizona Coyotes.
Oh!
And Austin Matthews was in the stands on Saturday, and apparently the Coyotes gave him a special weighted lottery ball.
I like it. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that's good.
Second place was the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, that'd be funny if the Blue Jackets are third, I'll lose it.
Come on, Blue Jackets.
Or Buffalo.
And third was the Ottawa Senators.
If it would have been a Canadian shutout, could you imagine what the headlines would be?
It'd be a trail of tears.
7 out of 10 teams, and none of them are from Canada.
I'll tell you one thing though. When is the lottery selection?
April 30th.
It's gonna be mandatory viewing. Seriously, it's gonna be mandatory viewing.
I had a reporter friend tell me that basically if like Canadian reporters are on the road for covering some playoff series, that they're probably gonna have to head back to Toronto to cover the draft lottery because it's gonna be so important to every Canadian franchise.
How great would it be though if Arizona won? I think it would be great for the league if Arizona won.
Yeah, it would be. But here's the thing: make it more fun. Like the other day, I saw Daniel Alfredson, right? And if he's going to bring something for luck, if it's his lucky stick from when he played, then let him have his lucky stick up there when he plays. And if somebody else has a guy that goes for good luck and he's a goalie, and his goalie pads were lucky, let him wear his lucky goalie pads. I think we should.
Like Pacioretty up there with like Poutine,
Whatever.
Yeah.
For Daniel Alfredson, it'll be the stick that he cross-checked Darcy Tucker into the board.
You know what? That's one of the reasons why I like Daniel Alfredson so much. Sometimes bad things happen to bad people.
On that note, for Dan Petru, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.